Hello, everyone. This is Fox 12 Now. Thanks for joining us. I'm Greg Nibbler. A new film from Gus Van Sant is coming out. It's called A Dead Man's Wire, and it tells this true story of a man named Tony Kiritsis who actually took somebody hostage for 3 days with a dead man's wire. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a wire wrapped around someone's neck, attached to a shotgun. So if you move too fast, you know what happens there. The star of the new movie is Bill Skarsgard. You may know him as Pennywise in some other places, but amazing actor, and I got a chance to talk to him about his role in this film for just a few minutes, but here we go. Bill, thanks for having time to do this today. So I want to start off, this film, I mean, it's based on, obviously a real person. So when you go into something like that, and I know you're going off of a script, but how much research and how much do you do looking into the actual Tony?
Yeah, I mean, there was Austin Kolodny, our writer, had even put in the script links to the actual case and the actual 911 phone calls and the actual press conferences. So even at the first time I read the script, I was constantly I had one tab open of YouTube of just watching the real thing and then reading the thing that he had sort of put into the script. So it was impossible for me to separate the real guy in the beginning. He was all over, and then as I finished the script, I sort of deep dove into the actual Tony and just tried to listen and absorb as much as I possibly could of the real guy, to a point where I just felt like I was just kind of recording myself imitating his way of speaking and his rhythm and his cadence and accent and everything. And then at one point it was just getting in the way. And Gus was just kind of like, all right, I think you need to, like, you've done your research and now you just kind of let go of the real Tony and let the Tony that we're creating come alive. Right off of the bat, first day of shooting, it was like, okay, here's our Tony. And then that Tony started dictating so much going forward. Like, there was something about him that, partially probably because of the preparation, but even off the first day, I just felt like I was improvising every single take we were doing. It was just Tony was saying things all the time. He wouldn't stop talking. And that's something that you can't really force. I think, improv in general, if you force it, it's terrible. It just has to
Right.
you just kind of happen to tap into this sort of flow state in a way. And if the character feels very researched and defined and true, that character will dictate the improv.
Yeah, then that'll just come through naturally. I mean, and talking about that too, working with Gus, obviously I'm from Portland, and he's a big part of his life here in Portland and a lot of those films. So I'm always curious to find out, what it was like working with him, working with Gus Van Sant.
That was an absolute pleasure. I think one of the things that I enjoy the most of my career progressing, or you're getting more and more established, is that all of a sudden you're on the radar of great filmmakers. And sometimes I'm like, I do a movie just for the filmmaker alone, just for the stories alone, or you know what I mean. So when Gus approaches you, you take it very seriously. And my dad worked with him on Good Will Hunting, in the '90s, and I actually met Gus when I was 7 years old on the set of Good Will Hunting. So there's kind of this funny, line of faith, if you will, of 25 years later working together. But he's an absolute treat to work with. He's so thoughtful, and I felt like I could learn a lot from him. He feels like a very, I don't know, developed and mature person and wise man in a lot of ways.
That's amazing.
And the way he works is very. And I spoke to my dad about it as well, and my dad was like, "Oh, this is how." And then my experience was like the idea I had of Gus from conversations with my dad were very much similar to the ones I had when we were shooting together. He doesn't try to force anything. He just kind of lets the movie dictates itself and find itself, and he sort of gently steering it in a very interesting way. Like it felt like we were all discovering what the tone of this film was together, as opposed to certain filmmakers who just try to control and force everything into, every minute detail is planned, and they're essentially control freaks, and there's a charm in working with those types of filmmakers as well, but being so explorative and letting a film shape itself is so much fun for an actor. I can't hear you. I don't know what happened.
Looks like I got muted there for a second.
Okay.
But Bill, thank you. I know that's my time, but I just really appreciate talking to you and just the Skarsgård family tradition of working with Gus Van Sant. Continuing on here with this. So thanks, Bill. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, man. Have a good day.
All right, so again, Dead Man's Wire, Gus Van Sant, Portland's own Gus Van Sant. That film is coming out for you to enjoy and watch. January 16th is release date, and huge thank you to Bill Skarsgård for joining us. Again, this is Fox 12 Now. Thanks for watching.